look at Power Platform integration with focus on Power BI integration with Power Apps. Today, our guest speaker is Reza. Okay, so the Power BI Power Platform learning community is being sponsored by Enterprise DNA and being powered by UrBizEdge. Enterprise DNA is a data analytics firm which focuses on empowering more people to use Power BI to get the most out of their business data. And your business is a registered Microsoft consulting, financial modeling, business intelligence, data analyst, and enterprise solution firm in Nigeria. They offer trainings and can also help you get the most of your data by helping you build maybe templates or helping you automate your business processes. So this is our upcoming training calendar for your BizEdge. And today our guest speaker is Reza. So Reza is a Microsoft MVP in business applications. He's also a Microsoft certified trainer and he also works at Catapult Systems as the Power Platform practice technical lead. He's an international speaker, a trainer, the Austin users group leader. He's also very known in the Power Platform community, especially on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Whenever you want to learn anything about Power Platform, is the first one to show up. You can learn about Power Platform, automation, anything Power Platform related, from Power Apps, Power Automation, and all from his YouTube page. Hello, Reza.
Hello,
Hello.
I'm fine.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Very, very excited to be here at the Nigeria Power BI user group. Little weird that I'm speaking at a Power BI user group since my background is Power Apps and Power Automate. However, the topic for today is
So,
about integration, so let's see how
okay, so,
this one goes. I'm super excited.
so the group started as a Power BI group, but over time, when Microsoft um, introduced the Power Platform, so the group now is not
It's
Power
fantastic.
BI. So everything Power Platform.
Great, great to hear that. So yeah, that makes me feel a little better now.
So
All
we
right.
just can.
I should I go ahead and share my presentation?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you. Let me know when you can see my screen, please.
Yes, you can see us.
All right. So let's get started. Before I begin, uh, since the opening credits were being played out, it's very important to support your local user groups. The reason why I say that is I myself, I'm a user group leader in United States. I lead the Houston Power Platform user group, and I know how difficult it is to lead and run a group. So kudos to everyone who leads the Nigeria user group. It's not an easy thing to do. That's number one. And second, thank you so much to the sponsors. Uh, it's trust me, I know how hard it is to get one, and it's very important that user groups are backed by sponsors, and more important that user groups are well attended. So whoever is in attendance today, thank you so much, and whoever will listen to this later on, please make sure you all support your local user groups. All right, so let's begin with our topic for today, which is Power BI integration with Power Apps and Power Automate. The the session today will cover all bases. The focus is purely on integration. So my introduction was already played out. I will not try and repeat it, but just to give a little bit additional details about me, my name's Reza Dorrani. I work as a Power Platform practice technical lead at my organization called Catapult Systems. So let's begin with Power Platform integration and the standard slide that you would have probably seen almost every other day in every other presentation related to Power Platform. However, for today's session, this slide would probably make a lot more sense because we are planning to cover three of the major components of this platform. Power BI for business analytics, Power Apps for application development, and Power Automate for workflow automation. The truth about this platform is that everything starts and ends with your data. If you're trying to build a Power BI report, you would first try and connect to your data in order for you to visualize that report. If you want to act or you want to build an app, you, you are doing that in context of your data once again. And if you want to automate something, you would automate something with respect to your data. So the key here is data. It's right in the center of this platform. And the beauty of the Power Platform is that you can connect to your data sources no matter where they live, on premises or in the cloud. And the other powerful aspect of this platform is that no matter what data source you select, and in the screenshot here, the data source that is selected is Microsoft Dataverse. That's the inbuilt data source that is a part of this platform. But no matter which data source you select, you are not limited to one service of this platform. You can create a solution leveraging multiple services of the platform. For example, I can build a solution that leverages Power BI, so I can create dashboards, Power App, so users can have a mobile app where they can interact with the data, and Power Automate for workflow automation scenarios. And let's not forget our chatbots using Power Virtual Agents as well. The total is greater than the sum of its parts. Over the course of the last 6 years that I've been working on this platform, I've done numerous projects and probably around 100, I would say. And around 90% of those projects, I can confidently say this, involved leveraging more than one service of this platform. If I had built an app for a specific purpose, more or less, I had a Power Automate workflow, probably running approvals or sending notifications. And I had my Power BI in order for me to create those dashboards. So more or less, you're leveraging multiple services of this platform. And when you are in the process of leveraging these multiple services, the key is for these services to integrate with each other. Many a times you will come across scenarios wherein you would like to trigger a workflow from an action in Power Apps. Many a times you'll come across a scenario wherein you want a Power BI related trigger to perform some specific activity. Many a times you will want the users to trigger a flow from a Power BI report. Or maybe have a Power App that is running inside the context of a Power BI report, and the Power App gets its data from Power BI. So there are going to be various scenarios wherein you would need these integration capabilities. And it is extremely important to understand how these different services integrate with each other. Majority of the online courses, classes, workshops, app in a day, flow in a day, dashboard in a day, they are all focused on these independent services. But the true power of this platform lies in its integration capabilities, which is extremely underrated. And hopefully by the end of this session, you will agree with me that there are numerous scenarios wherein these services can work together. So let's start with trying to understand the integration points or data points between these different services. Let's start with Power BI and Power Apps. Now, inside a Power BI report, we add our visuals. And we have been provided with hundreds and thousands of visuals that we can leverage, and we can pass data to those visuals and design our dashboards or reports. However, one not so well-known visual, unfortunately, is the Power Apps visual in Power BI. Now, this visual allows us to actually bring in a Power App directly inside the context of a Power BI report. And not just that, since it's a Power BI visual at the end of the day, we can pass our data points from our Power BI data set to the Power App. That means Power Apps gets its data from Power BI. And that data can be normalized. That data we can transform using tags. That data we can apply row level security. Whatever our data set is in Power BI, however we've configured that, we can pass that contextual data over to Power Apps. Now, when Power Apps is inside the context of a Power BI report, the world is open for us because Power Apps allows us to act on our data, perform CRUD operations on our data. CRUD operations meaning creating, reading, updating, and deleting data. The Power BI data sets are read only. Here's the question. Why would I need a Power App inside a Power BI report? Why? Well, the reason is because Power BI is good at something. It's great at visualizations. But Power BI does not allow me to write back to my data source. It doesn't allow me to create data inside my data source. It doesn't do that. The data set is read only. But if I bring in a Power App inside the context of Power BI, Power Apps can connect directly to my data source and perform those operations, writebacks to my data source. So this can be a live experience, a solution in which users are visualizing the data through Power BI, and at the same time, they are performing writebacks on the data source through the Power App that is connected directly inside that Power BI report experience. Moreover, in Power BI, when you connect to a data source, you have multiple options. You can either connect to it in import query mode, the two most popular ones, import query and direct query. Direct query meaning every time the user visits that Power BI report, there is an actual query fired against the database. So every time the user refreshes it, they'll see the latest data. Import query imports the schema and the data into the Power BI service. There needs to be a refresh schedule defined in order for the data to be refreshed so that the users see near real-time data. Now, the beauty of this Power App visual is it's not just an iframe sitting inside of Power BI. No, it's an app that is a visual that is a part of Power BI, and it also has some superpowers. One of them is the ability to refresh the visuals of the Power BI report. And that is only possible if the Power BI data set is configured in direct query mode. So think about this. I have a SQL database or a SQL data set. I've connected in Power BI in direct query mode. I've built my dashboard. Now I add a Power App in there, and the users can perform CRUD operations or write back operations on the data set in Power BI, which is SQL. So when they make that update in SQL through the Power App can initiate a refresh of the Power BI report, giving a near real-time experience, data refresh experience to the users. And we'll see this live in action in the demo. Now you can also go the other way around. Power Apps, the power there is app development. You can act on your data. However, what Power App lacks in is data visualization. There are no controls for that. In fact, there are just 3 standard controls with very limited capabilities. So what Microsoft has done is they've created a control inside of Power Apps, which is called a Power BI tile control, poorly named. Although it says Power BI tile, you can bring in anything from a dashboard to a report to a specific visual or a tile that's pinned in a dashboard. It started off with a tile that's pinned in a dashboard. That's why the name never upgraded itself. However, that control can actually bring an entire Power BI report directly inside the context of Power Apps. And not just bringing a report. That it's not an iframe. Yeah, it is kind of an iframe. However, when it brings the Power BI report, it brings in all its powers along with it. That means if I filter the data, if I have multiple tabs in Power BI, all of those things will be respected directly inside the context of Power Apps. And you can even filter the data in that Power BI report if needed through Power Apps. So there are various options that are available for us. We can either have Power Apps in Power BI or Power BI in Power Apps. I'll show you two real world use cases of projects that I worked on for customers. I'll show you that in the demos, which is coming up very soon. The next one is Power BI integrating with Power Automate. Just like we have a Power Apps visual in Power BI, we also have a Power Automate visual in Power BI. And this is very similar to what the Power Apps visual does. I add the Power Automate visual. I select the fields or the data points that I want to pass from my Power BI data set to Power Automate. This will create a button-like experience inside of Power BI. Users can click on the button. It will trigger the Power Automate flow on demand and pass the data set from Power BI to Power Apps contextually, to Power Automate contextually. And inside of Power Automate, we have various triggers and actions related to Power BI. So once again, Power BI can talk to Power Apps. Power BI can talk to Power Automate. This session is focused on Power BI integrating, and that's the reason why the next step is the demo. However, you need to understand that Power Apps and Power Automate can also natively talk to each other. Power Automate has a trigger for Power Apps, so I can on demand call a flow from Power Apps. There is an action in flow wherein flow can return data back to Power Apps as well. So flow and apps can talk to each other. Power BI and Power Apps can talk to each other. Power BI and Power Automate can talk to each other. So if I head back to my initial slide of the integration features, they are all integrated with each other. And they all can talk to any data source because all of them have the data connectors available for us. So guess what? A common data source that you've designed, all of these services can connect to it. All of these services can talk to each other. And let's not forget about Power Virtual Agents. Virtual agents currently, if it needs to perform any action, it does so through Power Automate. That means my chatbots can call a flow and flow can return the data to my chatbot. So in turn, it means that the chatbot is dependent on Power Automate today to perform its actions. However, it's integrating everything together. And that's what this topic is about, integration. So let's head straight into demos. Right, so I'm going to minimize this and I will switch over to my browser experience. I'll need a confirmation from someone, even a thumbs up would do, that you guys
Yes,
can see
we
my
can
screen.
see your
Thank you.
screen. Yes.
All right. So let's begin with, let's take a very simple use case. Since this is a live demo, the first one, so I'll keep it extremely simple. Firstly, my goal here is to create a dashboard in Power BI so users can visualize my data. My data source that I have selected for this demo is Microsoft Dataverse. Here I have a table in Dataverse called devices that my organization procures. So kind of a device management solution. You can think about it that way. In this, I have various columns that have the name of the device that I've procured, the manufacturer's name, the type of the device, what's the status of this device, is it assigned to someone, and so on and so forth. So an extremely simple table inside a database. For folks who are not familiar with Dataverse, just think about it as I have a table in a database. It could be anywhere. SQL, could be SharePoint, it could be your choice. Now from this, I was able to create a very simple Power BI report. Nothing special here. Reza is no Power BI expert. I just want to call this out upfront. So for me to build something like this is as good as anyone who comes in and tries to build a system that looks like this. So here in my Power BI report, I'm going to remove the things that I pre-built and we'll build it again from scratch. In my Power BI report, I have that same table connected. You can see it on the right-hand side in fields. The table was devices. And from this table, I added a couple of simple visualizations. I'm showing the name of the device, the status of the device, and the type of the device. And right here at the bottom, I have a simple pie chart visual that shows how many devices I have in the different statuses. So I have currently 9 devices that are in repair. I have 6 devices assigned, and I have 85 devices that are in the available status. Nothing special about this. This is a simple report visualization building in Power BI. Now, my managers of the system, folks who manage these devices, my IT admins, they need a dashboard to view what's happening with these devices. So great, they have this dashboard. They can see all the devices in the system. They can see the status of the device. They have visualizations. However, there is no option for them in Power BI to write back information to that data source. For example, let's say this device that was in repair, it went out for repair, it came back in after repair. Now I need to change the status of this device to available. I cannot do that in Power BI. Cannot. Yes, the user can go to the data source at the back end and start make modifications, or you may have another system. There is a lot of work that's required to do that. So it's important to understand that there is no direct way of achieving that with Power BI because Power BI data sets are read only. This is read only, period. Now, keeping this in mind, what if I want to add that capability to my users? And to do that, in my Power BI report, I'll head over to visualizations. One of the visuals here is Power Apps for Power BI. If you do not see this for some reason, you can go to the 3 ellipses and go and get more visuals and search for the Power Apps visual. It is a generally available visual, so it should show up in the visualization section. So I'll go ahead and select this. The moment I do this, it adds this Power Apps visual for me inside my Power BI report. And here, I would say the steps are not so well defined. However, the Microsoft product team has tried to define that. Step 1 is select the fields from your data set that you would like to use in your Power App. So this visual needs data, period. It needs data to begin with. What's your data source? The data source is Power BI. And Power BI has the data right here. I have my fields. So let's select a few fields that I can pass from Power BI to Power Apps. So I have the visual selected. I will select the unique primary key in my data source, which is devices ID. I will pass the status of the device. I will pass the type of the device, the name of the device, and maybe a picture of the device. Okay, I think I'll stop here. I can decide which fields I would like to pass from Power BI to Power Apps. And I can always come back to the visual and add additional fields as required. Now, the moment I select those fields, observe how the visual has changed its behavior. Now it says, okay, I'm getting data. So what do you want to do? I'll say I want to create a new app. So I'll click on that create new button. And this now will launch the Power Apps Studio experience in a separate tab. However, this Power App experience that launches will have something special. And that something special is called the Power BI integration object. This you will only get if you follow the steps that I did right now. Go to Power BI, add the Power Apps visual, pass the data points, and then say I want to create an app. Now in this app, I have a gallery on the home screen, and the gallery is getting its data from Power BI integration. That's this object dot data. So all of this data that you see here in my Power App is actually coming from the Power BI report. And this is a Power App. So I have full flexibility to define and design the way I would like this app to look like. For example, let's say I want to brand this app. I'll give it the forest green theme. Okay. I want to give this app a header. So I'll call this my devices power app. And I will give this a color and I'll center align this. So here's my devices power app. And here's a gallery that shows the data coming in from Power BI. I'll change the layout of this gallery to show the title, image. I'll change the style of this. Now in this gallery, look at the data points. Device name, this item dot. These are those fields that I selected in Power BI to pass to Power Apps. So the fields that I selected, only those fields will show up right here. So I have the device name that's showing up. Maybe I want to show the status of the device. Maybe I want to also show the type of the device. So you see all that information is showing up right here. And I also passed the picture aspect of the device. So I'll use this item dot, I believe it was photo. So if I do this, it will show me the images of the devices as well. So here's a simple Power App that shows data coming in from Power BI. Let's go ahead and save this app. I'll call this devices Power App, and I will click on save. So this will now save the app that I built to the Power App service. Once it's saved, I will close this browser tab. And now if we go back to our Power BI report experience, we can see the refresh is currently ongoing. I will save this and I will refresh this entire report so we can see it in action. The report is currently loading. Once this loads, the data is coming in from Microsoft Dataverse through the Power BI dataset. I can see the results, and now right in the center is where the Power App that we created has loaded. So I have a Power App living inside of Power BI. Well, Reza, what's great about it? It's just a Power App inside Power BI. It could be an iframe. No, there is a lot more to this. Let's think about it. The data is coming from Power BI. That means if I was to filter my data in Power BI, let's say I manually select Acer Aspire S7 and V3. So I've actually filtered the data in Power BI. Now, the moment I do this, observe how the Power App is contextually aware of the filters in Power BI. Because I selected these two, notice how it only shows me those two records. If I remove the filter, it will show me all the records. Let's do this. Let's select assigned. I have 6 devices that are currently assigned. I have selected assigned to filter the data source. And the moment I do this, check out Power Apps. It's now only showing me those 6 devices. And the status of all of those devices is assigned because that's the filter that I applied in my Power BI report. So Power Apps is respecting the filters, the refiners of Power BI. Very nice. That's a very cool feature. However, we want to do more. Remember my use cases. I want to give the ability to my device managers to modify the data. So for example, right now I have all of these devices. Maybe the in repair status, I want to change the status. To do that, I will once again edit the Power BI report and edit the Power Apps visual so that it takes me to the Power Apps Studio experience where I can start making additional modifications. So this is once again loading that same Power App that we created a few moments ago. Now this screen is a screen that has a gallery. I need a screen that has a form where the user can modify the data. Now the data currently is coming from this integration object. We've seen that. It's Power BI integration.data. And Power BI data sets are read only. That means even in Power Apps, that data set is read only. So if I try to change the status, it won't work. It'll give me an error. It will tell me the data set is read only. So how do I modify the data? Well, we are in Power Apps. The world is open for us. I can directly connect to my data source no matter where it lives. In my case, my data source is Microsoft Dataverse. And in Power Apps, I can directly go to data and connect to it. My table is called devices. So let me search for devices. Here's my table. Let me connect to it. So this is an actual connection to the backend data source. So I have that data source connected. Now let me add a screen. I'll add a form screen. This screen, which is the form screen, has a form control that I will connect directly to that table in my data source. When I do this, it will bring in the fields or the columns from my data source. And in here, I have the ability to select which fields I would like to showcase. I'll keep the device name. I'll keep the manufacturer name. My main thing is they should update the status. So I'll keep the status. I'll just remove the other columns to keep it extremely simple. Of course, it's up to you to decide how you would like to play this out. But I'm going to go ahead and remove all of this and just keep these 3 columns so they can modify this if required. On the top where it says title, I'm going to change this to device. And here I have an X icon. When the user selects this, I will take the user back to the previous screen. I have the submit icon. When the user selects this, it will submit this form. Submit the information in this form to my data source. And the data source is the actual data source, which is devices, not the Power BI read-only data set. Okay. Now from screen 1, when the user makes a selection using this details icon, I would like to navigate the user to that second screen. So for this control, right here, I will use a function called navigate. So take the user to screen number 2. So let's try this out. I'll preview this and pick one of the options here. Let's pick the first one. I'll click next. It comes to the second screen. If I click X, it'll take me back because I wrote that function. So let's pick another one. Let's pick Toshiba. Let's pick this one. Now, when I come here, it's not showing me anything. The reason is because the form control has a property called item. It needs the context of the item that you're trying to modify. Now, the item context has to come from my data source, not from Power BI. In my data source table, I have a lot of records, but I want to pick that record that the user has selected in this gallery. So for that, the item property, I will use a formula called lookup, wherein I'm looking up something, looking up to my table of devices, which is connected in my app, where I have my primary key in that table is called, I believe it's called devices ID. I think so. Devices. All right, let's try this again. Devices. Yeah, devices is equal to, here I will use the gallery control dot selected. So whatever is selected in my gallery dot, I passed over the device ID. Now this is a GUID in my data source. However, Power BI passes it as a string. So I'll just typecast this to a GUID. So this will give me the context of the item that I selected in my gallery and directly getting it from my data source. So let's just test this out. I'll go back. I'll pick Sony VAIO S15. There you go. Shows me that record. Let's pick Toshiba Tecra. I'll pick this. There you go. It gives me that record. So it's actually connecting to the main row in my table in my database. And now when the user hits submit, it will actually submit the changes to the data source, which is exactly what we want. However, once it does the submit, the form control has a property called onSuccess. Once it successfully submits it, I would like to take the user back to my home screen. So I'll navigate the user to screen number 1. But screen number 1 gets its data from Power BI, which is read-only. So it won't show me the changes that I made here. It's very important for me to refresh my Power BI visuals. And for that, right before navigating, there is a magic function here called Power BI integration dot refresh. This allows Power Apps to refresh the Power BI data set. And that backend data source is something that I've already updated thanks to this form control. That's it. That completes my changes. So I'll go ahead and save. And I will go ahead and publish my Power App. And I will close the tab. Back to my Power BI report, I need to ensure I click save. And then once I have my browser cache cleared, I should have the latest changes that I made in my Power App being reflected directly inside this Power BI report. May have to refresh 2-3 times. This is caching in action. Not yet. One more try. It takes about, I believe, 30 seconds to a minute before the cache automatically refreshes. I think it's refreshing now. If I make a selection, not yet. Wow. The cache is powerful. All right, there you go. So now when inside Power BI, the users can select and they can make changes. Now let's make this interesting. Let's do something. In repair, how many devices I have in repair? I have 9 devices in repair. You can see the number 9 right here. Let's pick an existing device. So this device, Acer Aspire S5, is currently available. And I have it as the IT manager. I have this device. There's an issue with the device. So I have sent this device out for repair. Now I need to update the status of the device. So I'll select that device. I will go to my Power App, which will contextually only show me that device since I filtered it. I'll go next and I will change the status. Now check this out. I will change the status to in repair. Okay, I've made a change. I haven't saved it yet. When I submit this, it's very important to understand what is going to happen. First, it is going to modify the record inside the database. Why? Because I connected to my database inside of Power Apps. And the database is Microsoft Dataverse. So first thing it will do is do that. Once it successfully does that, I added that function, Power BI integration.refresh. It will refresh all of the data here and you'll see it live. So keep an eye on this. If the demo gods are with me, I hit submit. If it successfully does it, it will take me back to the home screen. And now without me doing anything, you can see my mouse is just lying down on the right hand side. It will refresh the visuals. And once it does that, if I select out now, you will see the numbers would have changed. If I go back to that item, there you go. You see in repair has changed to 10. And if I actually select in repair, that device that I just changed to in repair would be listed right here. So I have 10 devices now that are currently in repair. My filter is on in repair. Let's do another thing. Acer Aspire S5. This one went for repair. It came back. I'll change the status to available, hit submit. The moment I do that, it updates my database and live, you'll see the refresh. You'll see the refresh. Check that out. It went to 9. It dropped, right? This is now only showing 9. The home screen will only show 9. That's the power of integration here. Imagine what users can do. They can visualize and make modifications at the same time along with live refreshing of data. Now with this, keeping this in mind, you can even take this a step forward. Here's that same experience, but a step forward. Let's say I have 9 devices right now that are in repair. So I select in repair, and it should start filtering my data based on the in repair status. So the Power App in the middle, it's the same app, just a different brand, does that. Now in Power Apps, you can also do bulk updates. So let's say I select this device, this, all of these devices that were in repair, I received them back. So I want to update all of them in one go, and I want to change all of their statuses to available. I'll click submit, check this number 9 here, see how this changes life. Check this table also. You see, it changed to 3. The table also changed to 3 because 6 of the devices, I updated the status to available. So on the fly in one go, I can even perform bulk operations on my data. That's the power of this feature. And on very similar lines, very similar lines, just as I did for Power App, we also have a Power Automate visual. So I'll add that visual. Once again, I'll select what I would like to pass. Let's say I pass the device name, device status, device type. That's it. I just want to pass these 3 pieces of information from Power BI to Power Automate. Once I select that, for the visual, I will go to edit. Now the product team has done a very good job of this. For Power Apps, it took you out of Power BI. For Power Automate, it actually allows you to create the flow directly inside of Power BI itself. So here, I can say I want to create a instant flow. This flow will trigger directly when that visual is clicked. So that button is clicked. And just to show you the properties that I get here, I will add a simple compose action. You can see the properties that is coming in from this trigger. It has the ID of the user who clicks on that button, the name, the email, the timestamp. The 3 columns that I passed are right here. All that information is available for me. So let's take a use case. I want to give an option in Power BI wherein the user can click a button called send email and it will send an email with the data. How about that? So here I'll add a step called HTML. I'll create an HTML table from the data that's coming in from Power BI. And then I will send an email to the user who clicked that Power BI button. And this will be devices data. And I will pass the data that's coming in from the Power BI data set. I'll give this flow a name, sample test flow. I will save my flow. It's very simple. Just create a standard flow. The trigger is Power BI though. I'll click save and apply. So it applies this flow to that visual that I added in Power BI. And the visual now turns into a button. You see this run flow? It's a button. I can make it look like a button by reducing its height. And why just call it run flow? Let's go to the title of this, or where's the button? Here, the text of this button, I'll change it to send email. Right, so this will send an email. Let's increase the font size. All right, let's save my flow. Let's test this out. I'll refresh this. So now I have my Power BI report that has a Power App and an option for me to even send an email. So let's say I need an email of all my devices in my system that are currently in repair. So I'll select in repair. Why? Because I want to filter the data in Power BI. So the data in Power BI is now filtered. And now I will go and click on this button called send email. When I click that button, you see it says triggering and triggered. It's actually calling the flow. And the flow was supposed to send me an email. And that's the email that I receive. Here's the email that has the name of the device, the status of the device, and the type of the device. So it's getting the data contextually from Power BI. Let's try the same thing right here. I have my devices that are in repair. I will run the flow. This time again, I will get an email, but it is better formatted. That's it. I've just added some formatting to it so I can see my device names, the status, and the type. That's the power of integration. Now, this was a simple example of what you could do with this. However, let me show you some real world examples. Here is one. Desk reservation. Okay, very common scenario, and especially in today's times. In the pandemic, you want to ensure that users are coming in, coming out of office. Maybe you want to, limit users coming in based on a capacity. You want to give users the ability to see which desks are reserved. Is there a desk available? It's a very common scenario. Now, this is a Power BI report. And in this Power BI report are a lot of interesting things. First thing, right in the center here is Power App. This is a Power App that allows me to reserve a desk. And I can simply go and say, I want to reserve a desk, let's say for the 23rd. These are the desks that are available. Someone has already reserved 37. I can pick a particular desk, let's say desk 19, and say submit. And this desk now is reserved on my name for the 23rd of March. By the way, I was the person who reserved 37 as well. So I have the ability to reserve desks using a Power App that's living inside a Power BI report. Additionally, if I want to see a report of the desks, for example, Reza has 8 desks that are totally reserved, but there are only 2 upcoming appointments. If I click on this button, it will trigger the flow, right? And the flow will send me an email with all the desks that I have reserved and the dates that I have reserved at. So I have a report of what's going on. Of course, needless to say, I can do a lot more things with Flow. I can create calendar invites. I can have an invite sent to me with the reservation of that date and a lot more. I've kind of kept this simple. This is a prototype version of what I built for my customer. And you'll kind of guess the things that I did for them. So I have a Power App. I have this. With Power BI, I can add nice looking visuals, right? Who are the people who are reserving desks? What are the desks that are being most reserved? What are the popular desks? We can see all of that live here in action. But there's one more thing here. Right on the left, this is a Microsoft Visio visual inside of Power BI. And this is a representation of my office location. So I can zoom in and I can look at all the desks, the structure, the layout of my office, the desks. I can zoom in, I can zoom out. It's really neat. I can pan and zoom. It's really, really cool what you can do with this. But I'll tell you what is even more cool. With the Visio visual, you can actually add controls in visual that are selectable. Think about this. Let's say I like this desk. Okay, I want to reserve this desk. Check this out. Just check what's going to happen. I'm going to select this desk. I want you to observe what's going to happen on the right hand side. I'll select this desk. It's a control. I have the desk selected. The moment I pick this desk, it's actually filtering the data in Power BI based on that desk. And remember what happens when you filter data in Power BI? Power Apps and Flow are contextually aware of it. Now, when I make that selection, Power Apps knows that I have made that selection. So Power Apps will automatically switch to the desk reservation screen. And see, it's done that. It switches over to the desk reservation screen. This is desk number 12. And it says, you are trying to reserve this desk. Why? Because I've selected it. Which date do you want to reserve this for? So I want to reserve this for the 30th. And I'll click submit. And just like that, desk 12 is reserved on my name. And if I select out, it goes back. So think about this. You can think about the possibilities here. I'll give you my customer use case. It was a stadium seat reservation scenario. We have the stadium map. Internal users can come into the Power BI report, pick sections in the stadium and reserve it. Right? It just appeals. Why? Because you're visually looking at information in Power BI. You are actually making selections and updating data through Power Apps, and you're running if you need any sort of automations, you have Power Automate. So you have the whole world available for you. In fact, you can even bring in a chatbot experience right here if you need that. That's the power of what you could do with this. I'm just literally scratching the surface. And remember, you can go the other way around as well. You're not limited to doing this. How about I do something completely different? Here is a Power App. Okay. It's an inventory management solution. It has a Power BI report living inside it. Okay, Inception. It's the other way around. In my Power App, I have data coming in about my inventory. And these inventory items are being stored in specific spaces. Once again, I have a Visio visual and Power BI. And in that visual, I have marked my spaces. There is one extra thing you can do with this, with the controls in Visio. You can change the colors. Notice the colors here, they have a meaning to it. The red color meaning there is no more space left. Orange meaning fast filling. Green meaning there are spaces available. So let's take an example. Space E, okay, this space. Let me go and just filter this to space E. I am filtering the data in Power Apps, but Power BI will be contextually aware of it. So I've selected space E. This space has 50 capacity for storing items. The moment I do that, check how Power BI strips out all the formatting for the other locations or spaces. It's only focusing on this space. Let's say I pick another one, space B. Now Power BI will show me or will try and add formatting to these two spaces. Now B has only 5 spaces available. Let me go into the space. In the space, I have stored 5 power towers and 40 fitness benches. And let's say I got a consignment order wherein I need to ship out 30 of these. So I've shipped out 30 of these. I will change this to 10 and I will update. Okay, I'll update this to 10 and submit. Now, the moment I do this, notice that space B has 35 spaces available out of the total capacity of 50. If I head back to my home screen, check out the Power BI report. This time, the color of space B has changed. You see that? It changes to orange because it knows that it has a little bit of capacity left. Let's take space E. Let's say I have an incoming consignment. And in this, there's nothing right now. So I will add, let's say I receive treadmills. I receive 45 treadmills. So I'm going to add them or move them into the space. The moment I do that, this space now only has a capacity of 5 left. And if I go back to my home screen, you will see the color of space E change to red because it's running out of space. So all of this is thanks to integration, right? I needed this nice looking visualization. I used Power BI. And Power BI can have tabs as well, right? Here's another visual. I have a tree map visual of all my spaces. Let's say I select multiple visuals and I go to tree map. So it will show me all those specific visuals. It's really, really powerful what you can do with this. And just to give you an example walkthrough of this scenario, the easiest way to add this is I'll just add a blank empty screen in my Power App. And to bring in Power BI, I'll go to Power BI. Here, I can pick a workspace and pick any dashboard and any tile. So it just brings in tiles for me from that Power BI workspace. But to bring in an entire report, there's a property called tile URL. And just to show you the power of Inception, okay, Inception in action. Here is a Power BI report. Let me edit this. In fact, let me go to export or go to file, I think, and embed report. This gives me this embed report URL. I'm going to copy this and I will put this here. Okay. Just want to show you the possibilities. I will go full screen with this. Check this out. This is a Power App screen in which I have a Power BI control that shows me a Power BI report that also has a Power App living inside it. Think about this. Think about the possibilities here. So I just bought that entire working Power BI report inside my Power App in a matter of what, 5 seconds? And Reza, is this clickable? Does this work? Of course. Zoom in, zoom out. I select a desk. If I make the selection, it will start filtering. All of those things are going to work right here. I can trigger my flow. I'll get the email. It's a full working integration kind of an experience. I want to reserve some time for the Q&A. So I think that completes my demos for the session. And after that, I only had a slide that said thank you. So I'll actually say it right on the call. Thank you. And let's open the floor up for questions because I want to make sure that I try and answer as many as I can.
Okay. So Reza, thank you for was like the possibility was very endless and can do with Power BI. There are actually a lot of questions.
Sure.
So one of the first question was so how would you like to see okay, so somebody was mentioning setting permission about the Power BI visuals the Power App visuals in Power BI. Like, would it be possible to allow those admins to perform like some operations, and maybe not everybody can perform
Absolutely.
operations?
Absolutely. So the beauty of Power Apps is when I created this app, so let me
Yeah, like
edit
this
this.
one.
So let me go into my Power Apps. So in Power Apps, if you want to do things like, all right, only my admins should be able to perform the CRUD operations, not other users who have access to that Power BI report. How do I restrict other users? Now, Power Apps is always contextually aware of the logged in user. And to prove my point, there's a function called user.email. So it gives me the email address of the current logged in user. So I know who the user is who is currently running that Power BI report, basically, who's currently accessing that app. So if I have this, nothing stops me from making a check before I redirect the user to the next screen. So this icon only show it if it is Reza and user so and so, or if this user belongs to an Office 365 group. I can connect to Office 365 groups or AD groups, and I can check to see if Reza is a part of that group. If yes, only show this. So the answer is yes, you can do things like that, but you would have to do it inside of Power Apps.
Okay. The second question. Oh, the answer of this one is okay. So, would it be possible to use a drop down instead of for the status change instead of manually typing? Yes, that's right.
Instead of
So,
manually, oh yes, 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 yes,
yes,
of
that
course.
is
This was good question. This was a demo, so I tried to keep it extremely simple,
so,
but nothing stops me from changing this. Again, this is Power Apps, but nothing stops me here from saying, you know what, let's make this a nice looking drop down control that has the three statuses, whatever, available, uh, whatever, A and B, just keeping it simple right now. But yeah, it could be this, and the user just comes and picks the choice. It should be that. From a demo standpoint, I kept it simple.
yeah. Then another question: how do you add field level validation to a Power Platform form, Power App form? To add
Yes,
field level
yes,
validation, I think you
100% yes. So let's take an example, right? This one is a form. Let's say I change the required field validation of this to true. So the user has to fill this in. If this is empty, and if I try and submit, Power Apps won't allow me. There's one example. Now you want to do things like the device name has to have a peculiar pattern. You can define that as well. There are many things you can do in Power Apps around data validations. I actually did a full video on data validations wherein I covered some crazy scenarios. So do check that out.
uh, so I posted Reza's YouTube on the in the comment section, so everybody should check it out. And then, how do you handle updating multiple tables,
Yes,
parent child
yes.
relationship in one click? Like, is it possible?
Yes, it is possible. So if you want to update in multiple tables, of course, that would mean I would have to have those multiple tables connected here in my Power App. So let's say I want to also update the accounts table, maybe, right? So I have those multiple tables connected. And when the user is submitting the data, maybe I have multiple forms, maybe I normalize it, depends. It's, of course, it gets more complex when you get down that path, but it surely is possible.
Okay. Okay, then. Okay, so I'll measure that. Is it okay? Is there any performance impact where you add the Power BI visuals?
Sure.
Like maybe
So
because not that it takes a long of time to refresh.
correct. So first things first, Power BI right now I'm using, if you look at my license here, I'm using like a trial license. So I'm not going to have that great capacity performance. That's number one. That's why probably you're seeing like it's pretty slow. Uh, Talking, because I'm looking at questions as well. I see a lot of questions around what happens if the data is large? What happens if so? Let's think about this. Power BI can work with large data, right? Let's say I have a data set that has 20,000 records. Now, does that mean that this Power App that I've added in my report can get all the data? No, there is a limit. That limit is 2,000. Okay. Now you will tell me, well, Reza, then it makes no sense because I have 10,000 records and I want all those 10,000 records to go to Power Apps. Well, I can counter you and tell you, well, no, you can add some good filters for your users so they only see those records in Power Apps that they want to work with. No user wants to work with 10,000 records at one go. For example, I want to work with my assigned devices. So if I select assigned, I'm basically filtering on that column. So Power Apps only gets the devices that are assigned, right? Now it will only work with 2000 records because Microsoft has to protect its service. Power Apps is designed keeping the mobile experience in mind. It cannot handle or work with crazy large data sets. And that is the reason why when Power BI passes data to Power Apps, the maximum number of records it can pass over is 2000. However, if you provide good filters, you can work with data sets that have millions of records and the users can filter and only get to that data that they are interested in. And that data will be passed over to Power Apps. On the other side, when I have my Power BI report inside the context of Power App, is it a performance hit? To some extent, I would say yes, because Power Apps has to load its shell because it has to load its data sources, it has to load its screen. And at the same time, this control, which is the Power BI tile control, has to also load all the artifacts within it. So yes, uh, how big a hit it is, I'm not sure, but there would be a load of data.
Okay, so the last question. Somebody asked that if you can show how you added the initial data source. Okay, so he
Oh,
did that at
how
the
do I
beginning of the
add it?
show.
Yeah.
Did that yeah, it's
So
considered so the database.
like, how did I start with that? I guess that's the question. So
Yes,
let me try and see if I can show that part. I'm gonna stop sharing and let me try and see if I can only show. I have a really wide screen. That's the problem. Let's try this again. Come on, share my. So what I did is as easy as this. I installed something known as Power BI Desktop. Folks from Power BI will be very familiar with this. It's a simple tool. It's a that you can download. It's called Power BI Desktop, and then you sign in using your account that has a valid Power BI license. For starters, that is what you would have to do. Then what I did next is because I want to bring in data from my data source, Power BI can get data from a lot of places, Excel, SQL, you name it. Okay. In fact, if you go to get data, you have so many and you can go to more and there are plenty of options available. In my case, it was Microsoft Dataverse. So this Dataverse right here, I select this. This will launch this pop-up dialog that I'm assuming you can see. It will ask me for the environment URL. So I'll plug in my environment URL. Then it will ask me for how do you want to connect to this? Import or direct query. I selected direct query because I wanted to use that integration.refresh object. So I pick direct query, I click OK. And if everything's fine, this should connect to my environment and again load a pop-up that will allow me to choose the tables from that environment. One of the tables was devices. So here's devices. I load all that information into this Power BI desktop file. I'll get my connection created and then I just start adding my visuals. So that's how I started it and then just published it over to my workspace in Power BI. That's the steps to connect to DataOS. I hope I was able to
Yes,
answer
that
that
was
question.
very, yes, very, that was very clear. Okay, so there's one more question. Actually,
Yes.
two more questions. So,
Keep-
how did you add Microsoft Visual on your Power
Oh,
BI?
see.
Your Visual, yeah.
Great question. Actually, I'll tell you what, that is one of, I keep saying underrated. I think that one probably tops it. So the way I added that is, let me switch back my window. So inside of Power BI, and I'm going to try and edit this so you can see it. Inside of Power BI, there is a visual for Microsoft Visio as well. Now, if you do not see this, go to three ellipses, get more visuals, and I think you search for Visio, and then you'll see this. Okay, so you add this, and then you just select it. Now, once you have this visual here, uh, once again, you can pass data to it from Power BI. So let's say I passed the name, I passed the desk information. Same thing, just like I did for Power Apps or for the Flow Visual. So I define what I want to pass to this. And once I do that, it will now ask me for a URL to the Visio file. So you need a Visio file. You see, it's telling me where's your Visio diagram. Where is it? In my case, I believe I had stored my Visio in my OneDrive. I have a folder called Visio. These are all my Visio files. So the Office Visio file is right here. Notice these are shapes inside of Visio. So you need to have a Visio license to, of course, create this. You create this, you add your shapes. You can even define information for your shapes. So you see I have an ID property. So these are my desk IDs. I'm mapping it right here. And inside of Power BI, I'll delete this to show you the one that I already have. This one, once you connect to the Visio, you can do field mapping. You can say, you know what, the shape IDs, you map it to this, and the colors, you put the colors based on the ID. So that's how I change the colors of these locations. So you see, desk ID 1 to 5 has the color, this orangish color. Let's try and change that on the fly. Let's say I want to give it this color blue, right? The moment I do that, see, the color changed to blue. So you can dynamically change colors. You can do a lot of things with this, but that's how you do it. Very simple. Add the Visio visual, connect it to a Visio diagram. If you want Power BI to know what's happening, for example, selecting a seat, for that, you have to ensure you have some unique data related to a shape. So I already have that data in play here. I hope that helps.
Yes, that helps. Does this require any special license?
From a licensing standpoint, let's take an example of this diagram. Let's just take an example of desk reservation, right? This has a lot of things to it. First, Power BI. So every user accessing this report will need a Power BI license, period. Second, I have a Power App, and this Power App uses a data source which is premium. Microsoft Dataverse is a premium data source. SQL is a premium data source. So if you have premium data sources that you're connecting to in your Power App, I need a Power App premium license as well. So in this case, the user needs a Power BI license, a Power App license, and Microsoft Visio is actually free for the user. The only person who needs a Visio license is the person who is creating the Visio diagram. And that doesn't cost a lot. So that's the good thing about Visio is it's almost, you can think of it as free almost. It's included with most of the Office plans. And I confirmed this with the Visio team themselves, because when they saw my video, they reached out to me. I reached out to them, and then I came to know more about it.
But if you embed this on a web page, or you can anybody can like interact with it, no?
It's a good question.
Um,
Power BI can go on a web page, yes, as long as the
yes.
web page is authenticated, in the sense the users have to be authenticated to use it. The reason is because if I push this out as an anonymous report that anyone can access,
Yes.
Visio will work. Of course, you have to ensure that your Visio diagram is shared. In my case, it's in OneDrive, so I can share it anonymously. Visio will work. However, what will not work is Power Apps. And the reason is because Power Apps, specifically Canvas apps, is not for anonymous users. You have to be authenticated to use apps. So can I put this on, let's say, SharePoint as a web part? Yeah, you can, and people can use it because it's authenticated. As long as the user is authenticated, as long as the user has a license, the components will load. If I am a user who does not have a specific license, you will see that those visuals will not load. It will give you the error. So if the Visio file is not shared with a user, this will say not shared. The user does not have a license for Power Apps, it will say no license, and so on and so forth. So there is a lot to plan out in terms of licensing and sharing, and there's a lot to this. It's not as straightforward as it looks.
Yes.
Good question.
So basically, is it for like it's going to be good if it's like within an organization?
With an organization, yes, these are
Yeah.
ideal for scenarios like desk reservation, right? You're not going to have anonymous users reserving desks. So
Oh,
yeah.
okay, like I thought maybe anybody could use it, like in the sense of the stadium. So maybe maybe
So
you
I'll tell you,
sell
my
stadium
stadium use case
tickets.
was my stadium use case was different. My stadium actually, it may have sounded like anonymous. Actually, the stadium is internal users reserving specific sections. They have those group bookings that internal users can do. So it's only for internal users. It's very important to note that this is not for anonymous scenarios. However, Visio, by the way, if you strip out Power Apps and Flow, the remaining part could be anonymous,
Yes.
which is not bad, but yeah, you cannot do anything with it. The remaining part is anonymous. You can always have a link here that says, yeah, go to a Microsoft form and fill out a Microsoft form, which can be anonymous. Just saying, if you need that. Wow, a lot of good questions. Really, really good questions. Okay, any other questions? Uh, Fine, I cannot hear you for some reason. Maybe you're on mute or you
Okay,
went offline. Sorry.
is it in? Okay. Raj, thank you very, very much. Awesome, awesome section.
Most
So
welcome.
I'll just
So
okay.
I
If
am
is
back.
back. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much for this wonderful session. Okay, so there just so at the end of the session we usually ask our first time guest speakers 2 questions. Yes, the recording is available on the YouTube page. I'll share it. And I'll also share Reza's LinkedIn and YouTube. So the first question is, so how did you get started in Power Platform? Like, what drove you to like start using Power Platform and all?
So how did I start using
Yes, the
this
Power
platform?
Platform.
So let me show myself so you guys know that it's me and there's not just a voice. I hope you can see me now.
Yes,
So
you can see.
hello.
Hello.
So my journey in this platform started back in 2016, late 2016. Um, I'm a SharePoint guy. I worked years and years on SharePoint all the way from 2003 WSS to 2007, 2010. And I did a lot of work with InfoPath forms and SharePoint designer workflows. Painful things is what I did. In late 2016, during the recession, I believe in the US, Uh, I was tasked a project that I was not too fond of, but I had to take that because the recession was ongoing. Uh, Literally, that project was click a button, it generates an Excel file, and I had to compare that Excel file with another Excel file, like manually for some reason. Uh, that was how it was. I had to do that for a year. Now I had two options: either to do that for a year and relax, or try learn something new, use my time. And that's exactly what I did. I was like, what's new? Let's go and check out what tech is new and what could be interesting. And I actually landed up with in Power Apps. Um, I saw it as a replacement for InfoPath. I started learning on my own, trying things out on my own. Uh, and as luck would have it, in early 2017, I think, there was a customer who came to my organization saying, hey, there's this new tool called Power Apps. Do you know this? And my organization, I did not even heard about it. So many people were like, no. And then there were conversations going on, and I was like, I know about it. I read about it. I tried it out. And they put me into a project. And I started with that project, and I was new to Power Apps. Doing something on a project and reading about it are two completely different things. So yeah, I got into Power Apps through that project. I went live with that project in like 4 weeks, 5 weeks. We went live with it successfully. And then 3 months down the line, the client came back with Power Apps is crap. Reza doesn't knows anything. The app has failed. Then I realized that, and why am I saying this is because I want everybody to know this. Uh, the Power Platform is sold as low code, no code. It's true, but there's a big but here. To create enterprise grade solutions, things that scale, like someone mentioned large data. Give me one project where your data is not going to grow beyond 2000 records. Name one project. It's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. You are going to run into those kind of scenarios. And that's exactly what happened with that project. Power Apps has a concept of delegation, how it works with large data sets. I never knew it, right? I was, citizen developer, jumped into it, built something quick, gave it out. Everybody was applauding. But 6 months down, as the data grew, the system came crashing down. I learned it the hard way. I went back, I spent 6 months on it, and then we went live again. And to date, touch wood, it's what, been 5 years now? That system is still up and running without any performance issues. And that's where I learned about delegation. And that's where I actually started my YouTube journey. If you go to my channel and go to the earlier videos, they were all about delegation. I never saw anything online that spoke about it. I saw a lot of online content where people are focused on here's the feature and this is what it does, but I did not see anyone talk about real world scenarios and real world use cases. I didn't see that, and that's where I started my journey of learning on the projects. Most of my videos are project related. They're stolen from projects. They are snippets of what I do in projects, and I try and share my knowledge so that others don't have to go through that same painful experience that I went through. But that's my journey. And then I went into Power Automate. Then I started learning about integration, Power BI. It's only because of projects I came here. So that's my journey. Long story, but um, I hope it stresses on the importance of uh, integration, and more importantly, enterprise grade app building, flow building is very different. Never an app in a day, a flow in a day, a dashboard in a day is never going to get you there. Never.
Then the second question is for those that want to learn or those that want to start out, what part were you given?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that
So
question.
for those that want to learn, for those that the beginners, those that want to learn,
For beginners. For
yeah,
beginners.
so what's your
Uh,
advice?
so advice is simple. I'll actually share my screen to give that advice. Uh, First thing is aka.ms/power apps resources. I know it says power apps, but it does everything. I'll share this link in the chat. If you're starting off this platform, you want to know, how do I get started? You want customer stories, you want some lab materials, you want some documentation. Um, this is one page that has all those curated set of resources. Uh, I'm not a big promoter of these kind of pages, but the reason I do this is because I worked with one of the program managers at Microsoft earlier. His name was Charles Sterling. He no longer works for Microsoft. He retired. He used to maintain this page, and I feel it has a lot of good resources for people starting out with this platform. So I'll highly recommend you to check this out. It may be useful, it may not, but it's a good link to have. It's not just Power Apps. There's everything in there. So go ahead and check this out. Uh, Additionally, nothing beats experience on projects. Nothing beats things that you try out. I see a lot of people signing up for trainings. They attend these 2-day events, 3-day events. I do those too. I conduct them. And I always say this that, they sell it as zero to hero. No one can make you a hero except yourself. Okay. Uh, if you need to learn, you have to do it on your own. You have to spend time on this. You have to try things out. You have to challenge yourself. Uh, you got to be careful with this platform. You can quickly go southwards with this platform if you do not know its limitations. Not every solution, the answer not to every app, the answer is not Power Apps. To every automation, the answer is not Power Automate. So it depends. There are other tools and there are reasons why they are. Sometimes you have to integrate. Sometimes you have to go, here and there. So it's extremely important to understand all those intricacies, and you will only learn those by going through different aspects of this platform. So pick one. If you're starting up, you're interested in app development, pick Power Apps. Start with app in a day, start with a simple Excel file, then grow it to a database, learn about delegation, and then start growing. Of course, there are YouTubers out there like me who try and help. But again, we can only do this much. Ultimately, it's up to you. So my my suggestion is try it out. And to try it out, it's all free. You can sign up for a developer account. You can have your own tenant. There is no excuse. I hear a lot of people say, I don't have access. No, you do. Everything's free. Go sign up for a tenant. I have 5 tenants today that I've signed up for. And the reason why I did that is because I want to try things out. I have a tenant that is in preview environment. I have a tenant where I have 3 users. So I test things out. I try things out. Constantly trying to learn and constantly trying to evolve. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that advice. So, are there any other questions, or would anybody like to speak?
So this was a question for me.
No, no, I'm asking the audience if there are any questions. Anybody would like to speak?
The audience is shy like me. All right, someone raised their hands.
You know,
Yes.
so there's okay.
I think Yusuf has his hand raised. Yes, Yusuf.
Yeah, so Yusuf. Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can.
Oh, thanks a lot. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Raza. So I'm a very big fan. I just have to
Thank
come
you.
on board. Okay.
Thank you.
So thanks for this section, and I really gained a lot from this section, especially the integration between Power Apps and Power BI, which isn't really in use. Like people use it, but no, like from where I am, not too much, not much. And also, I think I also gained a lot from this last section where you're talking about nothing beats getting an experience when you work on projects. There's you can work on the app, you can work on Power Automate, but when you work on a project, you get to see the use cases, you get to see what clients want or what the customer want out there. Then you now sit down and like, oh, how do I now build a solution to fit in that problem or that use case scenario that they want. So I also gained a lot from that. And I just really wanted to say thank you and also put my voice out there. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Most welcome. Thank you so much for joining the session, and I'm glad that because that was my goal of the session is to put the point across that anything's possible, and I'm glad you like the scenarios. Thank you.
Okay. So there's one more question. Someone's asking if, like, do you have any examples, maybe on your YouTube channels about Microsoft Team integration, or is there Microsoft Team integration even with this?
Oh yeah. I think I did on my channel. I think I have a full playlist on that wherein I have the Power Platform with Teams. I did some live sessions as well. They are also recorded and in there. So I am a guy who doesn't like promoting my own content, but since you asked that question, I'll put that playlist link in the chat. So hopefully that will help you out. I think I have 10, 12 videos on it. Some of them are long, but I'll paste the link inside. Check that out. Thank you.
So, any other questions? How do you find people to work on projects with?
I don't, because I'm an employee at my own at an organization in the United States. So I am the practice lead. Here I work with resources who are hired by my company. So that's how I work. Apart from that, what I do on YouTube is on my own. Most of my videos, my people are my subscribers. I have a community tab on my channel wherein I'm extremely active. I respond to every comment on my YouTube channel, every comment. And I think I get around 200 a week. I spend 3-4 hours a week responding to it. Most of the video ideas are thanks to them. So yeah, many people ask me how to do a particular thing. I add it to my backlog. If I see a common pattern, I go ahead, I learn about it and try and make that video so it helps people out. How do you find people to work on project with, especially if you're still a beginner? Wow. Well, if you're a beginner in this platform, I think the first goal for you would be to start moving up the ladder, and that is learning. I shared that link. So start learning, start growing. I think there's a lot of scope in terms of jobs. I think I receive on an average 3 messages a week which says, Reza, what's the future of this platform? Can I get a job? The answer is, I don't know. Things change. Infopath was extremely hot in 2013. I remember I got hired because of my Infopath skills. And today, no one even talks about Infopath. So if I had not started learning about newer technologies, if I had, stayed back, I would have lost my job by now. So it's extremely important to keep learning and growing. The Power Platform is hot right now. Things can change anytime. No one knows. The key is to have that willpower to learn. I think as long as you enjoy learning, it doesn't matter what it is. It really does not. I come from a Java background. Then I moved into .NET. I did all that C# coding, learned about, whatever, those variables and data practices and XYZ. Then I learned JavaScript, jQuery, then I learned JSON, then I learned Power Apps, Power Automate. So it's just a learning curve. The only constant in life has changed. So I'll recommend you to learn and try and become an expert at one thing. Don't try and jump into 100 things at one go. Get good at that. Apply for it. See, hopefully you get. There is plenty of work out there. I can tell you that much. I get 100 project requests a week that I decline. I just want to tell you that. So there's a lot of work. That's because I don't have time. I'm the only one sole running guy here. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yes. I think so. Yes. Yes. I think I answered this question. Okay.
All right. I
So,
think I did. It's a great insight.
thank you so much for accepting our invite and for coming.
Most
This session was actually very informative and gives a lot of ideas. So
I'll give you one more. Follow the right people. If you're trying to follow certain folks in this community of ours, make sure you follow the right people.
how do you find the right people?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard. Be observant. Be very observant. I have been as part of this community in the last 6 years. I know how things work very well. There are a lot of people who love to promote themselves. You will identify them very easily. Just keep your eyes open. The key is to do good work. That's it. That's the bottom line. In this community, observe people who are sharing knowledge, observe people who are sharing selflessly. That is very important. Uh, it's very easy to identify them. Uh, of course, does this mean Reza is taking a dig at some people? Yeah, it's okay. I have my opinions, they have theirs. But my point is, make sure you follow the right people. Uh, it's very difficult if you're a beginner to know about these things. But trust me, once you come into this community, start learning about how this community works, uh, you will you will come to a point wherein you'll have to take you will have to decide who are the people I would like to follow and be like. So do that. And talking about community, if you're not plugged into the community forums, you're making a mistake. uh, I also spent a lot of time initially in the community forums. These are forums that are run by Microsoft. However, uh, there are many individuals who, in their free time, go here to answer questions, to provide content. It's a really good space. I spent 2 years on these forums. I became an MVP as well because I made a lot of contributions in these forums. So, if you would like, if you would like to share your knowledge, if you would like to help people out, uh, I will recommend you to get connected to these forums. These things are more important than just whatever following people. Let's put it that way. I want you to be leaders, not followers.
Okay.
I hope all these advices were helpful. These are my personal. It's all my personal experience. I
Yeah, this advice
Yeah,
are
this advice.
very helpful. Actually, very helpful. And then, of course, you say this is fine. You say this is fine. Okay, so thanks so much for this session.
Thank you.
Hope to see you again if you have a chance.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I know I'm a tough one to get, but,
Yes, to
but
like 2 times.
sorry,
To,
man. I speak. I'll tell you what. On an average, last year I spoke 100 times. So 52 weeks into 100, 2 sessions a week. It's a lot. Uh,
yes.
doing my videos, doing this, doing my office. It's a lot going on. So I've kind of cut down on speaking, but of course, you invite me, I'll be here. It was a pleasure being here, and thank you everyone for joining and staying on for almost 30 minutes over. I really appreciate that, and thank you for inviting me once again. Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you for accepting. All right, so I'll see everybody next week, same time. We'll have another session next week. Not
Absolutely.
sure of the topic yet.
Thank you guys. I got to drop. Have a
All right, so
great weekend.
uh,
Bye everyone.
so next week we'll be looking at buttons more than one meets the eyes. So I'll share the link where you can RSVP for the session. And you should also join the learning community. So see you next week.